10 years in, you stop expecting fireworks. Anniversary dinners aren't about romance anymore, they're performance art. Two people in expensive clothes, sipping overpriced wine, pretending not to notice how quiet it's gotten between them. That's what I thought this was. The wine was fine. The food good enough to photograph but not enough to remember. And Claire? Claire looked like a woman auditioning for a role in her own life. Hair blown out just right. Eyes darting to her reflection in every polished surface. At one point, I caught her checking herself in the butter knife. That's when I knew something was wrong. See, Claire doesn't check herself like that. Not anymore. She's always been effortlessly put together, the kind of woman who could walk out of spin class and still get hit on in the Whole Foods parking lot. But that night, she kept adjusting. Hair. Lip gloss. Posture. I watched her shift in her seat every time someone walked past our table. At first, I thought maybe she was expecting someone. Or maybe she'd planned a surprise. I tried to be gracious, tried to imagine a hidden dessert with sparklers, or a string quartet hired for irony. But no. No surprises. No sparklers. Just a half-eaten beet salad, a barely touched cocktail, and a woman nervously eyeing her own reflection every 3 minutes. You okay? I finally asked. She blinked like I'd startled her. What? Yeah. Just work's been nuts. My brain's on like 80 tabs right now. Claire works in non-profit strategy, the kind of job that looks noble on paper and gets you invited to foundation galas where everyone wears sustainably harvested silk and says things like impact metrics with a straight face. Maybe close a few of those tabs? I said, gesturing toward the uneaten food. She smiled, tight. Sorry. You're right. I'm here. Present. Grounded. She lifted her glass like a robot taught manners by LinkedIn influencers. To 10 years. To 10 years, I echoed. We clinked. She didn't drink. I did. The rest of the night slid by in awkward pacing. Between courses, I watched her phone vibrate under the table. She didn't check it, just glanced at the screen, then shoved it back in her clutch. But I caught the flicker of tension every time it lit up. A few times, she muttered, "Sorry, board updates." She was lying. Not because I had proof, not yet. But because I've been married to this woman for a decade, and I know when she's working and when she's performing. And this? This was acting. Badly. She excused herself twice. First to take a call, then to fix her hair. Both times, she came back more tense than when she left. I paid the check early, just in case we needed to bolt. But nothing happened. No big reveal. No drama. Just the slow, uneasy crawl of suspicion setting in between the veal and the soufflé. That night, back at home, she collapsed onto the bed like it had been the most exhausting date of her life. Sorry I was weird tonight, she said, eyes closed. Just tired. Love you. Then she rolled away and pretended to fall asleep. I stared at the ceiling for an hour. She wasn't weird. She was working. On something. Or someone. The next morning, I did what any man would do when he feels something's off and has no concrete proof to hang it on. I acted normal. Made coffee. Packed the dishwasher. Kissed her goodbye like I hadn't been watching her from the corner of my eye all night. But I started listening. And that's when the pieces began falling into place. First came her sister. 2 days later, we were at brunch, the kind where everyone pretends hollandaise is a personality. Claire was in the kitchen, and her sister Leah leaned over the table and whispered, "She's got something big lined up." I blinked. What do you mean? You didn't hear it from me. But she told me she's in talks for something major. Huge jump. Like, finally getting what she deserves. A job. That's what she meant. Claire had been job hunting behind my back. Which wasn't a crime. But it was odd. She'd always said she loved her role, her team, her cause. She wasn't the type to chase corporate. At least, not openly. So I nodded. Played dumb. Wow, I said. That's news to me. Leah looked surprised. Oh. I assumed you'd be helping her prep. She said she's been going to a bunch of networking things lately. Right, I said. Those events at hotels? Leah nodded, sipping her mimosa. Yeah, exactly. She's been all over lately. Said she's got a mentor in the field, someone helping her position herself for a strategic leap. Mentor. Right. That word again. I smiled. Didn't blink. Later that night, I checked her Google Calendar. She always left it open on our shared tablet. I clicked through her past few weeks, color-coded blocks marked donor event, strategy roundtable, coffee with advisor. All of them during dinner hours. All of them in hotel lobbies. I opened one and cross-referenced the location. It wasn't a conference center. It was a private suite block at the Pembroke, the kind of place hedge fund guys rent for quiet meetings and quieter affairs. I didn't say anything. Not yet. I just started counting. 4 networking events in 2 weeks. 3 new designer dresses, tags still attached. 2 late-night showers she didn't take before. 1 woman who hadn't looked me in the eye during our anniversary dinner. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. But if this was a job hunt? She wasn't submitting resumes. She was submitting herself. And the way I saw it? She just accepted an offer she hadn't told me about. So I started building something of my own. A role. A setting. An opportunity she wouldn't be able to resist. A surprise interview. Tailored just for her. Because if she was going to cheat in secret, I'd give her an audience. And let the truth do the hiring. You learn a lot about a person when you watch them lie without knowing they're being watched. Claire was always a polished liar. Not sloppy. Not the kind that makes dumb mistakes like lipstick on a collar or calling someone else's name. No, she was the kind that cheats like a surgeon. Clean. Sterile. By the book. She made her betrayal look like self-improvement. The dresses? For networking optics. The hotels? Industry mixers, boring, honestly. The new skincare routine? Late 30s, babe. Gotta stay ahead. Everything had a perfectly logical explanation. A spreadsheet of half-truths she'd been updating on the fly. Nothing traceable. Nothing obvious. Unless you were looking. Which I was now. I didn't confront her. That would have been too easy. Too early. What she didn't realize was that I wasn't trying to stop her. I was documenting her. Quietly. Clinically. The way an entomologist studies a spider before it eats its mate. It started small. I checked her phone one night while she was in the shower. I know a cliché. But sometimes the clichés work. She had Face ID set up, and lucky for me, she never updated it after that one time she used my face to unlock it in the car. I held it up, it blinked, and there I was inside. No incriminating texts. Not right away. Claire was too smart for that. But she had screenshots. Hotel confirmations. Dinner reservations under fake names. One note in her app labeled Talking Points, Executive Dinner, with phrases like Impact KPIs, Long-Term Integration, and I kid you not, Framework Shift as Growth Story. It read like a performance script. Not a woman preparing to land a job, but one preparing to justify an affair. There was no company listed. No recruiter. Just W, always that initial. Sometimes next to hotel names, sometimes next to dates and times. Once next to a line that just said, ask about portfolio shift. W. Whoever W was, he wasn't from her office. I cross-checked the hotel dates with my calendar. The last 4 networking events aligned perfectly with weekends I'd been out of town for work. Too perfect. Still, no name. So I dug deeper. And by deeper, I mean, I texted her sister. Leah and I had always had a weirdly honest rapport, the kind that comes from watching someone you grew up with marry into your family, then slowly shift into someone unrecognizable. She hated Claire's performative streak but kept the peace for the sake of birthdays and baby showers. I told her Claire had been acting distant. Said I was worried. Leah hesitated. Then dropped the grenade. She's been spending a lot of time with Wesley. Wesley. Her brother-in-law. Her sister Leah's husband. Of course. Suddenly, W wasn't anonymous. W was family. W was the same guy who ran private equity advisory but never explained what that meant. W was the guy who once joked, "Claire's got a strategic brain wasted on nonprofits." W was the one who always kissed her cheek a little too close to the mouth. I almost laughed. Of course it was Wesley. That smug, yacht shoes wearing creep with veneers and an MBA from somewhere that sounds impressive but isn't accredited. Why? I asked, playing dumb. Leah sighed. He said he's helping her pivot. Said she's too smart to be stuck in cause work. Started mentoring her a few months ago, strategy lunches, some coaching. At least, that's what she told me. That was the final puzzle piece. The hotels. The new clothes. The nervous glances at our anniversary dinner. She hadn't been job hunting. She'd been auditioning for an upgrade. And she picked my sister-in-law's husband as her casting director. Classy. But I wasn't mad. Not anymore. I was impressed. Impressed by how clean she kept it. Impressed by the showmanship. Impressed that she thought she could sneak through the world wearing a second skin and I'd never notice. But the problem with wearing a mask too long is forgetting where your real face ends. So I made a plan. I knew Wesley liked the spotlight. Liked deals. Liked leverage. I figured if he was grooming Claire for something, whether it was blackmail, business, or just bad sex in hotel bathtubs, he was keeping receipts. Guys like that always do. And I wanted those receipts. So I started with LinkedIn. Wesley's page was immaculate. Buzzwords for days. Strategic M&A leadership. Operational realignment. Private advisory circles. All smoke. All mirrors. But there was one connection I recognized, a guy named Jordan Talley. We went to undergrad together. Jordan now runs his own firm, corporate consulting for VC-backed founders and board finance guys who want to feel like sharks. I messaged Jordan. Said I had a favor. We met for drinks 2 nights later. I laid it out straight. I needed to stage a fake executive interview. One that looked real. Sounded real. Just long enough to bait Claire. He asked one question, is this revenge or intel? Both, I said. Jordan grinned. I'll get the penthouse. It took less than a week. He pulled some strings at the Pembroke, same hotel Claire used for her little mentorship meetups. Booked the top suite under a dummy company name. We staged it like a C-suite recruitment pitch. Strategic Growth Accelerator. High-impact capital integration. The usual tech-adjacent fluff. I wrote the email myself. From a dummy address. Used a voice Claire wouldn't question. Cold. Confident. Flattering. It invited her to a discreet executive discussion for a confidential opportunity. Said her name had come up via peer nomination in local impact circles. We used phrases she couldn't resist. Mission-aligned leadership. Social ROI. Next stage scalability. Hook, line, sinker. She replied within 3 hours. Happy to discuss. Thank you for thinking of me. We scheduled it for a Thursday night. 8 p.m. I told her I had a client dinner. She said she had a strategy talk. We kissed at the door like everything was normal. And that night? She walked into a trap. One that smelled like cologne and betrayal. Because when the elevator doors opened at the penthouse floor, she wasn't greeted by a recruiter. She was greeted by Leah. And behind Leah? Both sides of our family. Mine. Hers. And Wesley's wife. Who'd been waiting for months. Holding screenshots of her own. I sometimes wonder what went through her mind when the elevator doors opened. Did she think it was a mistake? Did she think she had the wrong suite? Or did some old animal instinct finally kick in, the kind that tells you, without explanation, that the trap you're walking into has already closed? I wasn't in the room. That was the point. She didn't see me. Not right away. But Leah did. Leah stood by the door in that silent, high-ceilinged penthouse suite like a prosecutor waiting to call her first witness. Claire stepped out of the elevator in a navy blue dress I hadn't seen before. Fitted. Subtle slit. Statement earrings. Hair done in a way that said, I don't try too hard, but I absolutely did. She was ready to impress someone. Just not the crowd that greeted her. Leah. Her parents. Mine. A few cousins. Even Jordan, the friend who helped me set the stage, played the role of neutral facilitator, clipboard in hand, tie perfectly knotted, smile tight. And on the couch, in the center of it all, sat Madison, Wesley's wife. Holding an iPad. Smiling like a woman who'd already buried the body. Claire froze. Not a full stop, more like a half-step hesitation. Just enough for anyone paying attention to feel the static shift in the air. But Madison? Madison didn't flinch. She stood. Walked to Claire. Kissed her cheek. Thanks for coming, she said. We've been dying to meet the new candidate. I watched it from the adjoining suite. Jordan had the whole place wired. Live feed. Audio piped into a control room that usually held waitstaff and VIP handlers. Now it held me standing in the dark, watching the woman I married get ushered into a slow-motion car crash. Claire played it cool. For about 30 seconds. She smiled. Nodded. Shook hands. Then glanced around the room and tried to triangulate her exit. Too late. Jordan stepped in. Claire, thanks again for agreeing to meet us tonight. We really appreciate your time. Before we begin, I just want to confirm everything discussed here is off the record. But we do have a few pre-cleared observers present. Claire's voice was barely audible on the feed. Sorry, I thought this was a private session? Oh, it is, Madison said, sweetly. Private, just not secret. Then she tapped the iPad. And the first image appeared on the projector screen. It was a screenshot. Hotel reservation. Pembroke, room 1704. Booked under C. Lang/W. Mercer. Claire's maiden name. Wesley's first initial. Date, 2 weeks ago. I saw her blink. Once. No denial. Just recalibration. Jordan cleared his throat. So to begin, why don't you walk us through how you came to be referred for this role? Claire hesitated. Madison leaned in. Tell them about your mentor. Claire looked at her. Dead in the eyes. And still, she tried to lie. I've been exploring some new opportunities. I was told someone submitted my name through a private network. I didn't know there'd be. Family? Leah said. Or witnesses. Claire opened her mouth. Madison tapped the iPad again. Second slide, text messages. Short. But clear. W, you looked insane tonight. That dress should be illegal. C, you liked the blue? I wasn't sure it was formal enough for dinner. W, formal enough to tear off. Next time, no panties. Claire closed her eyes. You could see the facade cracking. Not breaking, not yet. But cracking. Jordan was merciless. Ms. Lang, would you consider this an appropriate exchange for a professional mentorship context? She didn't answer. Madison answered for her. She would. Because it wasn't mentorship. It was leverage. Wesley was grooming her for months. Promising introductions. Building loyalty. Until he had her right where he wanted her. Claire looked at Leah. Please. Don't, Leah said, voice flat. Don't talk to me. Another tap. Third slide. A photo. Wesley and Claire. Taken from a hotel lobby security camera. Arms around each other. Smiling. Date and timestamp included. Claire sat down. For the first time, she looked smaller than the room. Jordan closed his folder. Well, I think we've learned a lot. You're clearly ambitious. Adaptive. Skilled in risk management. Someone coughed. It might have been laughter. Claire finally looked toward the door. She was calculating again. If she could find the edge of the chaos, she could run. Damage control. Spin. But that's when the door opened. And I walked in. Silence. She saw me and flinched like I'd slapped her. Not because I looked angry. I didn't. I looked like someone who just finished the hardest part of a very long game. I took the center seat at the table. Jordan stood and handed me the clipboard. Final interview, he said, dry as sandpaper. I looked at Claire. She looked at me. Then she whispered, why? Because, I said, I wanted to see how far you'd go before the lies ran out. Madison stood beside me. Passed me a second folder. Inside? Everything. Printed transcripts. Hotel bills. Wire transfers from Wesley to Claire under a fake consulting label, CL Advisory Services. Receipts from luxury boutiques tied to Wesley's corporate card. Even a draft NDA Wesley had sent her, labeled proposal, exit terms. She wasn't just having an affair. She was preparing to cash out. And maybe blackmail him in the process. I laid the file in front of her. You weren't the only one playing chess, I said. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just sat there, staring at the pages like they might rearrange themselves if she blinked hard enough. Leah broke the silence. You slept with my husband. You used me. You lied to everyone in this room. Claire opened her mouth. Leah cut her off. Get out. Claire stood. Wobbled. Took 2 steps. Then turned to me. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I stood too. Yeah, I said. That's why I made sure it did. And with that, she walked out. Madison didn't move. Just stared at the elevator doors long after they closed. Then she turned to me. I'll handle Wesley, she said. I nodded. I already started. We didn't say goodbye. Didn't need to. We were now co-authors of her obituary. Not the death kind. The social kind. The kind where your name gets replaced with a punchline. And trust? That doesn't resurrect. There's something eerily quiet about scandal. Not the screaming kind, not at first. It's the silence that gets you. The heavy, oxygen-sucking silence right after the collapse, when no one knows what to say because every sentence feels like a landmine. That's what the next morning felt like. Claire was gone. Not stormed out gone. Not I'll be back tomorrow to fix this gone. Just, gone. Her car was missing from the garage. The closet had a few noticeable gaps, travel bag, laptop, that perfume bottle she always swore she didn't overuse but absolutely did. She didn't leave a note. Didn't text. Didn't block me. Which, honestly, would have shown more conviction than whatever this was. Disappearing isn't a defense. It's a strategy, the oldest, most cowardly kind. Flee before the smoke clears and pray the fire forgets your name. She underestimated how long I hold heat. I didn't call her. I didn't ask where she went. I wasn't chasing her. I was cleaning up. Because the detonation she caused? It was still burning through lives, mine, Leah's, Madison's. And now, it was starting to singe the corners of something deeper. Something older. It started when I checked the burner phone Wesley had used to coordinate with Claire. Yes, I had it. Madison gave it to me the night before, after Claire left. Said she'd found it in Wesley's gym bag 6 weeks ago. Had copied everything: texts, emails, voice memos. She hadn't confronted him. Yet. She wanted confirmation. Now she had it. I wasn't expecting much from the phone. But then I saw the contact list. Only 3 numbers. One was Claire. One was Madison, labeled simply as wife, all caps, no emotion. And the third? J. Lang. Claire's maiden name again. But not her. Julia Lang. Her mother. Still alive. Retired. Sweet in that disinterested Florida condo kind of way. Why would Wesley be texting Claire's mother? The messages went back 2 years. Most were boring. Logistics. Check-ins. Then, 6 months ago, it changed. The tone shifted. One thread read: Wesley, she's getting curious again. J. Lang, keep her focused. Don't push too hard. You know how unstable it got last time. Wesley, she thinks she's the one seducing me. J. Lang, good. Let her. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just an affair. This was orchestration. Claire wasn't chasing Wesley. Wesley had groomed her, with help. Why would her mother be involved? I checked the timestamps again. And a memory surfaced. Faint. Unsettling. Around the time those messages started, Claire had reconnected with her mom after years of estrangement. She told me Julia had mellowed out. Was finally trying. I remember feeling happy for her. Even encouraged it. Now I saw the pattern. Julia didn't just re-enter her daughter's life. She reinserted Wesley into it. I went full bloodhound. Cross-checked old family photos. Traced Madison's wedding guest list. Julia had introduced Claire to Wesley at a gala 12 years ago, back when he was still just Madison's date, not her husband. Claire was 19 at the time. Wesley was 27. The night after that gala, Julia had posted a photo with the caption, "Finally, the right crowd." I went cold. Back to the phone. More texts. Wesley, she's talking NDA now. Think she's planning to flip this. J. Lang, she won't. She's her mother's daughter. And I didn't raise a girl who shares power. Wesley, if she goes to him? J. Lang, then I'll go to press. We all have receipts. So this was about blackmail. About leverage. Claire thought she was getting out ahead. But she was a puppet tangled in wires pulled by people who wanted her pliable. Disposable. Julia had been using Wesley to control her daughter. Wesley had been using Claire to control, well, everyone. And me? I had every message now. Screenshots. Audio files. A full digital trail from manipulation to implosion. I printed it all. Organized it in a manila folder labeled Lang Mercer Contingency. Then I sent a text. To Madison. Me, it's deeper than we thought. We need to meet. She called 2 minutes later. We met at her house, a pristine modern place that looked like it had been curated by someone with a minimalist fetish and deep-rooted rage issues. She poured us both a drink before I could even ask. I told you he was dangerous, she said. He wasn't working alone. I laid the file on the table. She flipped through it in silence. Halfway through, she stopped. Oh my God. Yeah. She trusted her mother. I know. She put the folder down. Looked at me. We can't keep this private. No. I mean, we can't bury it. This isn't just cheating. It's coercion. Grooming. Weaponizing trust. I know. Her voice dropped. We go public. I nodded. But I had one condition. When we do, I said, we don't make Claire the headline. We make her the evidence. Madison understood immediately. Because this was bigger than Claire now. This was rot. And rot spreads. So we made a plan. She'd leverage her PR firm. I'd leak to a few discreet journalists. Jordan would ghostwrite a leaked report from inside Wesley's firm. Leah would prepare a statement, no names, just inappropriate intra-family exploitation. And Claire? Claire would become the symbol of what happens when you build your life on secrets you never even owned. I didn't hate her. Not anymore. Because once you see the puppeteer, the puppet looks less like a monster and more like a mirror. But I wasn't going to save her. She'd burned that bridge with her own matches. All I was doing now was letting the light hit it. You can only play the victim until the spotlight turns around. That was the idea behind everything we did next. This wasn't about drama. Not anymore. This wasn't Claire crying on marble floors or Wesley making backroom deals in hotel bars. This was about truth, not the emotional kind, but the kind that leaves scorch marks. And we were going to make it public. But not loud. Loud is cheap. Loud gets attention for a day and then fades behind the next scandal cycle. What we needed was surgical. Controlled. Something that sounded like a whisper until you realized your house was on fire. Madison was the perfect accomplice. Her rage didn't burn, it calcified. She didn't scream or sob. She documented. She spent a week compiling every financial thread between Wesley and Claire, boutique receipts, digital transfers, and expense reports camouflaged under client development. Then came the NDA. We found it in a shared drive, Claire's draft to Wesley, dated 2 months before the anniversary dinner. The file was labeled Exit Bridge Final Draft.docs. Inside, it offered silence in exchange for a lump sum payout and continued professional discretion. She was preparing to blackmail him. Plain and simple. So the moment Madison saw it, she laughed. She really thought she was playing him. She was, I said. She just didn't realize she was playing on your board. We packaged everything. Labeled it cleanly. A PDF dossier. The Lang-Mercer file. Then I called Jordan. I need a leak, I said. Level? High-stakes incest-adjacent corporate sabotage. A pause. I'm listening. Jordan had an old contact at a media outfit that specialized in soft landings for hard stories, stories that needed a slow drip, not a tabloid blast. They framed it like an insider whistleblower report: predatory mentoring, misappropriated company funds, unethical advisory relationships within a social impact org structure. No names. Not at first. Just enough breadcrumbs to make the right people start sniffing. We gave it 48 hours. By the second day, my inbox was a graveyard of inquiries. The firm Claire worked for sent out a "We are taking these allegations seriously" memo. Wesley's advisory group went into media lockdown. PR firms scrambled. Donor boards started asking questions. And then came the first name drop. A secondary blog, trying to ride the wave, published a sourced quote. Sources close to the story confirm involvement from Wesley Mercer and Claire Lang, connected through a long-term family tie. That was the spark. Everything else was gasoline. The full dossier hit Reddit within hours. Anonymous. Untraceable. But complete. And suddenly? The story wasn't about a cheating wife. It was about a multi-layered abuse of trust. About a woman groomed by her sister's husband under her own mother's watch. About a man who weaponized mentorship to orchestrate control. And a wife who turned that control into leverage. The internet feasted. But quietly, in the corners. Comments flooded in under corporate Instagram posts. Private messages poured into LinkedIn inboxes. Unconfirmed reports started circling group chats and Slack channels in both of their industries. Claire resigned within a week. No statement. Just a final, cold LinkedIn post. After much reflection, I've decided to step away from my role and focus on the next chapter. Thank you to everyone who supported me through this journey. The comments were polite. The real responses were in the DM leaks. Screenshots of people calling her sick, vile, opportunistic, and my favorite, the human version of a Word doc full of empty buzzwords. Wesley? He went into full lockdown. Madison served him papers. Leah moved out within days. The family group chat imploded. My mother asked if we'd be smoothing this over by the holidays. I told her there wasn't going to be a holiday. At least not one that included Claire's name at the table. As for Julia, Claire's mother, she vanished. Deleted Facebook. Disconnected her number. Rumor had it she'd fled to Aruba. It felt theatrical. Like a royal family quietly packing their things after a televised coup. But the best part? The final twist? That came later. After the dust started to settle. After Madison and I grabbed a drink to mark the 2-week anniversary of the leak. We sat outside a quiet bar. The kind of place where no one asks your story unless you're already halfway to spilling it. I raised my glass. To revenge. She clinked. To facts. Then she pulled something from her bag. An envelope. Found this in Wesley's safe. He probably forgot it was even there. I opened it. Inside was a birth certificate. I frowned. What am I looking at? Look closer. The name at the top read. Benjamin Lang Mercer. Date of birth, 1995. Mother, Julia Lang. Father. It clicked. Slowly. Stomach first, then spine. Wait. Wesley and Julia. Madison nodded. He's not just Claire's mentor. Or her brother-in-law. He's her mother's ex. And that birth certificate? That's Claire's half-brother. Silence. Cold, complete, stomach-churning silence. She slept with her half-brother. She didn't know, Madison said. At least, not until after. Julia buried the record. Changed names. Burned everything. But Wesley kept a copy. Why? Because he always planned to use it. I sat back. Everything spun. Claire didn't just cheat. She stepped into a trap so intricate, so incestuous, so utterly engineered that she didn't even realize her body was collateral in a decades-old grudge match between a narcissist and a control freak. Madison leaned in. You still think she's the villain? No, I said. She's the fallout. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something close to peace. Because sometimes, revenge isn't about watching someone suffer. It's about realizing they were already broken long before they hurt you. And walking away without adding another crack. You'd think the end would feel louder. It didn't. It felt like winter sunlight through dirty glass, too bright to ignore, too muted to warm anything. There was no final blowout. No public breakdown. No screaming match with overturned furniture. Just the slow, meticulous fading of someone who'd already lost before they even realized they were playing. Claire didn't try to come back. Not physically, anyway. No surprise appearances on the porch. No "can we talk" texts. But she lingered like a smell in old clothing. There were bank statements, automatic payments she forgot to cancel, shared contacts who didn't get the memo fast enough. She became a ghost in our systems. And like all ghosts, she started to haunt the places she left empty. I found myself watching the places she used to sit. The way she'd perch on the edge of the kitchen counter, sipping oat milk lattes like she'd invented them. How she'd hum in the bathroom, always one of 3 songs, always just out of tune. None of it meant anything at the time. Now it meant, well, still nothing. But I remembered it anyway. Because that's what happens when a lie ends, you replay the footage. Every frame. Looking for the glitch. Not because you want her back, but because you want to know when it started. And the truth is? I still don't know. Maybe it was that first business trip, when she came home wearing a new scent and said, "I just felt like a change." Maybe it was that night she cried for no reason and said it was stress. Maybe it was 10 years ago, when she smiled through the vows but squeezed my hand too hard, like she was holding on to something she didn't believe in. We all play roles. She just committed harder than most. The house got quieter. Leah didn't talk about it much. Madison and I texted occasionally, mostly updates, the occasional dark joke. We weren't bonding over shared trauma. We were just allies. A few people who knew what it meant to detonate the truth and watch it land where it needed to. Wesley never recovered. Madison leaked the birth certificate 2 weeks after the dossier. Not directly, just enough breadcrumbs for the internet to start asking questions. Suddenly, the story wasn't just executive uses influence for affair. It became something uglier. Tighter. Incest-adjacent grooming across 2 generations. A slow-motion family implosion. He moved to Miami. Switched companies. Scrubbed his social. But once your Google results are contaminated, you don't come back from that. Julia vanished completely. Rumor was she checked into some exclusive wellness retreat in Costa Rica, paid in cash. Probably chanting mantras in a hut somewhere, pretending her legacy didn't just detonate across 3 bloodlines. And Claire? One day, I got a package. No return address. Inside, a flash drive. 1 file. A recording. I clicked. It was Claire. Audio only. "Hi. You don't have to listen. But if you do, just let me finish." The voice was smaller than I remembered. No bravado. No veneer. Just quiet. I didn't know about the birth certificate. I swear. I found it 3 weeks after it started with Wesley. At first, I thought it was fake. I told myself it was fake. Because how could it be real? Who does that to their daughter? A pause. A shaky breath. I didn't stop it. Not when I should have. Not when I knew. Because I was already in too deep. And for a minute, I thought if I could spin it, if I could get something from it, maybe I could rewrite what it meant. Another pause. I wasn't in love with him. I wasn't even in control. I thought I was. But that's the thing about people like Wesley and Julia, they make you feel like you're steering the ship while they're mapping the storm. I leaned back. She kept going. You were the only thing that felt stable. Which is probably why I buried it all so deep. I didn't want you to see how far I'd already fallen. But you did. And instead of breaking me, you showed me. You let the mirror do the work. Final pause. And then. I won't ask for forgiveness. I don't think I deserve it. I just wanted you to hear me say. I see it now. All of it. And I hope you don't carry it like I do. The recording ended. I sat there. Didn't cry. Didn't throw anything. Just deleted it. She wanted me to know she finally saw herself. That was fine. But that was for her. Not me. I'd already moved on. Not in the Hollywood way, no dramatic new love interest, no beach house escape. I just moved. Out of the house. Into a smaller place. Cleaner. No ghosts. Just fresh walls and quiet mornings. Every so often, someone from our old life would reach out. ask what really happened. I'd smile. Say something vague like it's complicated or long story. And it was. But the truth? It all came down to one moment. That night at the country club, when I looked across the table and saw the look on her face. The one she thought I couldn't read. And I realized something I never forgot. She wasn't waiting for me to see her. She was hoping I wouldn't. Because some people don't want to be loved. They want to be believed. Even if the belief is a lie. And me? I stopped believing. That's when it ended. Not with the flash drive. Not with the interview. Not with the fallout. It ended the moment I realized the woman I loved never actually existed. She was just the best resume I'd ever read. And I was dumb enough to hire her.
Subscribe to the channel